2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it. Oh! Are we ready? Are we ready for tonight's t-shirt? Trying to be a bit mysterious there. Good evening. Welcome along to Reading the Signs. Got Alex that side. Got my Denmark t-shirt on tonight. I can finally wear it with some degree of comfort and safety because the football's over. But throughout the tournament, that was really, that was the team I was following. I'm not going to lie. The secret is out there now. Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, gender progressives, anyone else, however you define yourself. Welcome along. We've got a fantastic show tonight. Unfortunately, our guest, Andrew O'Neill, hasn't been able to make it tonight, but we've got an absolutely phenomenal replacement instead, Philip Simon, who will be joining us shortly. Very entertaining. I'm sure you can enjoy it. So tell me, how's your week been? Do let me know. Leave some leave some comments in the box. Big hello to Dawn McNulty. I'm losing my ability to speak. I'm having a stroke. Hang on. No, your tongue hangs to the left if you're having a stroke. I'm not having a stroke. So, do leave me some comments. Let me know that you're there. Let me know how your week has been. What you've been up to. What's been going on in your world? I've had the best week. Best week ever. Starting off in Dublin last week, which was just a fantastic trip. Really enjoyed it, but I was so tired on Wednesday. But then Wednesday night, Martasha organised one of the best date nights ever. I'm not paid to advertise these people, but if they want to pay me, I'll advertise you all the time. They're called Luna Cinema, outdoor cinema at Kenwood House in London. Just a fantastic evening. We went to watch one of my favourite films, Cinema Paradiso. For those of you who don't really know me, I'm a bit of a nerd, really. I do like geeky foreign language films. Much to the surprise, I should add, of most people who meet me, because for some reason I appear to have been given a thug's body but the mind of a ballet dancer. I am the original Billy Elliot. And what's really nice was the patronising tone adopted by the people either side of us. We kind of had a little chat because Tasha would talk to a tree. A guy said, "Oh, have you been before? Have you been to we've not seen you here before." And she said, "No, we only come to the foreign language films." She hates foreign language films. Her idea of a film is a bloke gets bitten by like a squirrel and becomes Squirrel Boy, superpowers, and then proceeds to fight crime and right wrongs and all the rest of it with his superpower squirrel. I think I've written a film. I think you've actually seen an idea born, develop, and probably die a death really as well. But yeah, it was just fantastic. It was just a really nice night out, and then a night out having dinner with my good friends from Zimbabwe on Friday. If you don't have any friends from Zimbabwe, you've got to go and get some. Honestly, they are the coolest people on the planet. Let's just do that as our first suggestion for comments in the box. If you can come up with anyone you can think of who is cooler than people from Zimbabwe to have as your friends, let me know, because I'm going to take some persuading. I'm not going to lie to you. They're great people. That was all good. Saturday, we had a proper good old Cockney knees up down in Wapping, down in the East End. I say down in Wapping because now it's not really down in Wapping. Now it's near Wapping. You can't walk down there. That's a private pavement now. What has happened to London? What is going on here? You can't walk along the River Thames. Terrible. But it was a great day, and we had some really lovely overpriced Italian food. There's a theme here for my week, isn't there? But that was all good. Very nice day. Good fun was had by all. When I say by all, I mean by me, because let's be honest, if I'm happy, that's what matters. As we remember from Kane Brown's top tips for well-being a few weeks ago, put yourself first. Nothing wrong with it. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean you're not going to have a long and happy and prosperous life just because you put yourself first. Do put yourself first. And then yesterday, well, what can I say? Roast lamb. Proper roast lamb ran at me mate's ass. And then this morning, tops it all off, I got an apple pie dropped off to me for a favour I paid a couple of weeks ago, which just goes to show if you do nice things to people, sometimes they'll get you an apple pie. Anyway, that's my week. How has your week been? Do let me know. So Dawn McNulty wants to talk about our gold and silver medals. Our gold and silver medals. I think you're talking about the Olympics, aren't you, Dawn? I'm not really a fan of the Olympics. I'm not going to lie. I think it's just, what's the point of watching super fit athletes? Where's the fun in that? You know, I would much rather see out of shape athletes or drunk athletes, you know, or blokes who look like me trying to run 100 meters and stopping after 5 yards because they're out of breath. I don't like to see, you know, it's not when you see supermodels on the cat. I don't want to see perfect people. I want to see, you know, slightly out of shape people struggling down the catwalk, wearing clothes that you can wear, not dressed like a hat stand or some sort of buffalo from 17th century America. Dave Sleep, mate. Dave saved me last week. Dave Sleep, for those of you who don't know him, runs a really amazing organisation, been very supportive of men's radio station and women's radio station, of course. But I'm always talking about how when you're in trouble, sometimes you just need a bit of help, even from a stranger. And last week, Dave Sleep came to my rescue, like I would say a knight in shining armour. But he was up in Scotland, so he didn't exactly get on his white charger and gallop to my aid. He basically sat in his bedroom and talked to me, but that's what mattered. Dave Sleep suggesting Zim is awesome. If you've been there, Dave, let us know where you went, what you thought. Dawn suggesting South Africa is brilliant. This show is going in a different direction than what I thought we would. Before I bring Philip on, Dawn seems to think now, what annoys me is it's all about Tom Daly and Adam Peaty, where Tom Piddock, 180 gold medal for mountain biking, hasn't been a mention. Okay, all right, Dawn, we're going to give Tom Pidcock. Am I getting caught out there? Is this like one of them things where you go in the supermarket and ask them to call out for a name that sounds rude when you put it together but you don't realise? So Tom, the cyclist, got a gold medal for mountain biking. Hasn't had a mention, but he's had 3 mentions here so far. I'm not really keen on athletic cyclists, Dawn, as you know, because they don't stay in the cycle lane, do they? Every road has got a cycle lane, clearly marked with a thick yellow line. Cyclists stay between the yellow line and the curb, and the road is for the rest of us. The road is for the cars, pavement's for the people, sea is for the fish, tree is for the squirrels, which goes back to, of course, my original film idea of Squirrel Boy. But I'm sure that Philip Simon will help me write this, because this guy, ladies and gentlemen, is a great writer. If I start telling you all the things he does, we won't actually have time to get him on here. He is an exceptional stand-up comic, always trying to come up with new stuff whenever I've worked with him. I'm always a little bit wary of people who like golf, but I'm sure he's going to put me right on that. And improv is another thing that, you know, I don't like people improving. I like to, you know, don't make it up. Just do what you've written down. So improv and golf, that they will be our 2 areas of contention. But other than that, he's a good guy. He does an amazingly funny podcast, which he'll tell us about, with the awesome Rachel Krieger, who I'm hoping will one day come on as a guest. He's written a kids' comedy joke book. This guy, what can I say? I'm in awe of him. There you go. So please, a little welcome in the box. If you can all say hello to Mr. Philip Simon.
Hello.
There you go. I'll give you a big build-up and you go, hi.
I know, I didn't recognise myself in all that. Who's this guy?
Mate, I like the delightfully placed photos on the door behind you.
Yeah, a few of my favourite films.
Well, that's the Thompson twins, isn't it? That second one down.
No,
it's not Thompson twins. Who we got there?
Let's see, we've got Leon at the top.
Oh, right, Leon. Is that the one with the bloke with the plant and kills people?
Yes.
Do you notice how I put the plant first, like it was more integral to the plot?
I know, and poor Natalie Portman doesn't even get a look in.
Yeah,
Just
what did
sits
she
on
do?
the
Bit
plant.
part, mate. Bit part. It was the plant.
Then we've got Goodfellas.
What's it about Goodfellas you like, Philip?
I think it's just some of the best writing. That I really enjoyed the script. It was one of the first films I watched. I think I kind of found myself really drawn into the script more than anything else. So there's that.
Can I ask, are
Yeah.
you trying to intimidate me, mate? Is that what this is all about? With these violent films behind you? It's one of my favourite films. I'm a big Woody Allen fan. I'll put it out there. I've no comment on what he may or may not have done, but I've come to the age now where all my favourite actors, directors, producers, and singers have done something that you wouldn't really accept in your mate. But one of my favourite films, Play It Again, Sam, as if you're familiar with, he tries to impress a woman by buying medals from a charity shop, and he has like an Olympic 100 meters sprint medal from the 1922 Olympics. Is that what you're doing with these?
Well, I would say yes, except the gold disc behind is from Neil Diamond's The Jazz Singer, which doesn't really make that many people impressed.
Mate, that is impressed the hell out of me. The Diamond, actually.
It's a great.
Can we call him by his proper name? The Diamond.
The Diamond. Big Neil. And also for the Play It Sam, there is. I can't do this pointing. The Casablanca there.
Casablanca
and Shawshank Redemption, just above it. So
do you know? Like I do like to, because I do get quite into films, as I pointed out, and I do like the classics. But I do struggle with plot flaws. You know, like Leon, for example, the plant. It's got much more of a role than he gets credit for. Casablanca, Ryanair could have sorted that out in a second.
They could have, but they would have charged for everything.
£30 return.
Yeah.
Right?
Unless you need a toilet.
Unless you want to pick your seat.
They'd be walking up and down the aisle selling scratch cards. That's not what you want.
Come on, it's Ryanair. Yeah, and you would have had, Okay, fair enough. So tell me about the Diamond. Where's that come from? How's that come about? The Neil Diamond.
The Diamond. My dad got me into him when I was 8. He showed me The Jazz Singer as a film, and I fell in love with the music. So big fan of the music.
I am a massive fan of the Diamonds. Maybe surprising, I don't know. But
no,
massive.
It's not. It's not surprising. It's not surprising. I don't want you to think that I've been lying in bed and going, I bet John is definitely
all these years, how little I've known of you and your love of violent films and the Diamond. It's like a bit of yin and yang there, Philip.
And also the thought that I'm going to defend improv.
Mate, we'll get on to that. Let's just stick to the Diamond for now.
All right.
If I tell you, on Saturday, I made the mistake of Tasha's aunt is 88, I think, and she discovered Spotify. And I had to make her a Spotify playlist, mainly featuring Neil Diamond. As you know, on Spotify, it will randomly throw in a couple of other singers just to pack out the playlist. And it was a really awkward moment because we're in Wapping, in the heart of like proper East London, and Andy Williams popped up on a playlist. It was not well received.
No. Well, if you're listening to Neil, you want Neil. You don't want.
I'll tell you. Obviously, normally I interview the guests, but you've got me going there. My favourite Neil Diamond story doesn't involve Neil Diamond, but it does involve a mate of mine who won Stars in Their Eyes as Neil Diamond.
Did he?
And he was quite a handy character, and he used to be a doorman, a bit of a geezer. Lovely bloke, and he liked doing magic, and he had these coins, and he used to do his magic trick. And we were on a ship once, and one of the guys who was a dancer, was about 25 years younger than him, all cut and ripped and muscly and lean. He took the coin and played around with it, and then when the Diamond said to him, "Can I have my coin back?" He went, "I haven't got your coin." And of course, the Diamond said, I should point out, I always refer to character singers as the person they are the character of, because they're real to me. He said, "Look, you've got my coin, you can give it back to me." And the kid said, "What are you going to do about it?" So I took him to one side and said, "Listen, let's do this properly, okay? Whisper, 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 whisper." And he said to the kid, "Okay, I'm going to go, but I can't be responsible for what happens next." Then he went back to his dressing room, put his Neil Diamond costume back on, came back in, stared the kid in the eyes and said, "You've got something belonging to a friend of mine." And the kid was going, "Is this bloke for real?" It's the same bloke. Because now, if I was you, I'll give him the coin back. Otherwise, you're going to get battered by Neil Diamond. And Kid was like, "You're mental, mate. Yeah, I'll take the coin. Just take the coin and go." And then he went. I just thought, if Neil Diamond only knew the effect he could have on young skateboarding teenagers.
That's true. It's not. Yeah, it's a good story to tell.
Good story. So tell us about the improv. Tell us about what's this improv all about? What happened?
I don't know. That I hate improv. That's not me.
You've never done improv?
I mean, I went to drama school. We had to pretend to be into improv, but not comedically. No.
Well, is there other non-comedic improv?
I don't think it's ever meant to be non-comedic.
So how did you get out of it?
I just pretended to be into comedy more than I was improv, and made people laugh, as opposed to improv, which quite often doesn't. I've got friends who do improv, so I'll be careful what I say, just in case I offend. But no,
it starts. Choose the company you keep, young man.
I know, but you know, when you're new on the circuit, you kind of say yes to everyone. That's the way.
Were you taken advantage of? Was it all that? Come down here, son. Yeah, pretend to be a tree.
Yeah, I found myself then just in this improv troupe. I've never done improv professionally at all, or even amateur. Not
even accidentally. You've not even accidentally done it.
I've accidentally found myself.
You don't want to be a squirrel boy in a movie.
The problem is, I laugh if things like that happen. I laugh all the time if I'm on stage in an improv and someone asks me to do something. So I'd be a terrible person to have in an improv troupe.
So straight comedy. How did you get into straight comedy? What made you decide to be a comedian?
I tried doing improv and no one wanted me. No, I was an actor and I fell out of love with acting. I did it for about 10 years, and loads of people kept saying, "Oh, you should do stand-up. Why do you do stand-up?" So I did a course. In the end, I kind of ran out of excuses and did a course in Camden at the comedy school. And I then went out on the circuit, and that was 2011.
Wow, that long ago.
Yeah.
Tell us about your acting. Did you ever your famous role?
Your big role, my big one. I mean, I'll say what I think. You might think it's a different one, given the improv research you've done.
I had 9 minutes to research this, Philip.
Although, actually, having said that, I do have an IMDb credit that is not mine. So people make stuff up all the time. My biggest job, I guess, was playing Daddy Pig in Peppa Pig.
Blam!
On
Pig.
It was in the theatre production of Peppa Pig. It was official. But I did that for a year and a half. It was puppetry and just appearing in a kids show for a year and a half. We toured the UK. We did the West End. So that was good. And it was at that point that I kind of lost the will to act anymore and started to think about stand-up.
What was it? Why? What was wrong with being Daddy Pig?
Nothing wrong with being Daddy Pig. I loved being Daddy Pig. It was such an intense job. You're basically on a tour we were, I think, 2 venues a week. So you're all over the UK. You went to Ireland as well. And it was so intense. And it wasn't really acting. It wasn't, I trained in Shakespeare and, Noel Coward and things like that. And this was great fun, really good, fun job to do. But it was exhausting. And I was away from home for a long
things
time.
we do to bring home the bacon.
Hey.
I'll just improv that. Russ Kane is saying that his friend is the legendary Dave Graham, the voice of Grandpa Pig. Did you know David Graham?
I'm trying to think who I know of the names.
Is it taking you that long to just wipe it from your memory?
Yeah, because I know some of the production team, because we knew the creators. They were part of the show, helping us, because they're so protective of the brand. Yeah. Everything has to be monitored. I mean, there's one point they wanted us to go on to ITV News to do a promo thing for the West End run, and the licensing team were like, "You can't do that because Pepper would never be in a human's world."
Brilliant.
Yeah, they were so precise about it. So, it was good. It was good fun. It was good fun, but it was enough. A year and a half of that, I was knackered.
It was time to move on.
Time to move on, and I tried comedy, and I fell in love with comedy, more than I'd previously been in love with acting. So,
'Cause, I mean, I met you and you were still very new. weren't you?
yeah, very early on.
And keen.
So I'm still
Yeah.
keen.
That light in your eye, yeah, that glint in your eye.
I think I still had that hope that there was, there'd be somewhere for me in the industry, and I was like, oh, I'll probably do 3 gigs and get a sitcom. I think that was my initial starting point, and that didn't happen. But I enjoyed live gigging a lot, and it was lovely working with you, learning from the master.
Learning, son. This is what you got to do. But tell us about your day job, because you had a very interesting backstory day job as well, didn't you? When you weren't being Daddy Pig.
Yeah, but because of the acting, I'd always had day jobs that I could dip in and out of. It was never a career. So loads of people give up, big careers to, I used to be a lawyer and now I'm a comedian. I didn't do that. So I was always an office temp. I worked in admin, and I worked in all kinds of offices, from media companies to property companies. I worked in the Health Protection Agency for a while, which is one of the jobs that would now be looking after the pandemic, except the government cut their budget so much they disappeared before the pandemic. But I was working, I think when we met, I was working in a synagogue. I was doing the admin for a synagogue in London, where it was great because they gave me as much time off as I needed for auditions and jobs, and I could leave the office early if I had to drive to Plymouth for a gig or something ridiculous like that. But I did that for
never the sort of job that someone's going to make a hit record about. You're working as an admin in a synagogue when I met you.
It's not going to appeal to the mainstream.
Don't think that's not really dancey, is it? You can't really.
Not even the Diamond could make that work.
No, the Diamond could make anything work, Philip. No, you need to stop that right there. I'm just saying no. So your first gig, tell us about your first gig.
So my first gig, my very first gig, was the showcase for the course that I did. Where we had
who ran that course?
It's a guy called Keith Palmer.
Keith Palmer, yeah. Okay.
At the comedy school, and it's amazing. I'm really, really fond of the place. We were taught by a comedian called Mr. C, and Adam Bloom came and did some workshops with us. So it was a good training.
I think Mr. C still does comedy.
He does, yeah.
He once actually rang me up and asked me if I wanted to go to I think it was the Seychelles. Yeah, he had a gig out there.
Did he?
And me, I was like, no,
I should have nurtured.
Yeah, you're right, mate. Thank you. I don't want to. Why not? I'm like, it's too far. I don't like to gig too far.
Well, was it an open spot?
No, he was paying. I think Brian Higgins, actually. I rang Brian Higgins up there. You do. They want somebody who's got like some sort of Celtic link. And,
okay.
I think Brian went and became my best mate afterwards because he I can't believe you didn't go.
Yeah.
Too hot, man.
I love going abroad for gigs. It's great. So this first gig, it was a showcase. So we just had to do 5 minutes of whatever we'd written over the course. And it's meant to be the friendliest gig you do, except one of the guys on the course had kind of put a thing on Facebook telling his friends to come, and loads of them had come, got drunk, determined to put him off, started a fight.
Oh, brilliant.
Bottles were thrown. So my introduction to comedy was people being kicked out of a gig, a friendly gig, and then, please welcome to stage your next act, Philip Simon. And then during my set, the fight broke out again.
Nice.
So yeah, that wasn't a great start.
Did it throw you?
It didn't, because, and this is going to sound really pretentious, but having been an actor and done the training at drama school, and you kind of get used to being on stage and just dealing with whatever's thrown at you. So
literally.
At one point I genuinely thought a bottle was going to come my way. I still have fantasies about one of those moments where it flies you and you grab it and go, thanks.
Nice.
So I went on stage. Literally, the fight had someone just been kicked out. I went on stage. I think I said something like, I wouldn't mind, but that guy's my agent. And that sort of set the room a bit. And I just carried on from there. My second gig was a walk in the park after that, because I was still very nervous, being on stage. But it's different being on stage with your jokes, stuff you've written.
Yeah.
because that's quite soul bearing. I can go on stage and do other people's plays and be Daddy Pig.
Mate,
Go on there
wasn't the Daddy Pig experience? Didn't that come in useful at that gig?
I
you go, look, everybody stop, or you can all go to bed. Didn't you?
I didn't really know how to work that into conversation. But it was great. It was a baptism of fire, and from then on, I just gigged. I just started gigging. I knew I wanted to do it professionally. It wasn't. Yeah. Some people did the course for a bet. Some people did it for the experience. I knew I wanted to go into comedy, so I booked loads of gigs and just got on the circuit.
Because I can remember talking to you when you were thinking about going full time and really going for it, and just thinking this guy's just got so much enthusiasm. It's just great. But wow,
well, I think I don't know if it's enthusiasm or stupidity, but I was working this temp job in the synagogue. We just had a baby, and I had decided that I was exhausted. I wasn't being brilliant at anything that I was doing because I was spreading myself so thin. Something had to go. I wasn't going to give up on family or comedy, so I'll give up on stability instead, and ditch the day job. So my partner and I spoke, and she was like, "Yep, we can manage." The gigs were coming in at that point. It was fine, so I felt okay about it. So I started. I think it was 2016. In January, I went proper full time.
Wasn't that around the time when the whole comedy circuit went tits up?
I'm not saying it's my fault. I'm just,
I'm not blaming you, mate. But what about the good old days? Good old days.
I think if I'd have started comedy when people first told me to, which was when I was at drama school, so 2001 was when people were telling me to start it, and I was at a drama school with Paul Carenza, who's now he writes for sitcoms and he's very good comedy.
Nice guy. He actually books really good Christmas gigs, carols and comedy in churches.
Yeah,
hilarious.
I've done his church gig that he runs. He's really, and we at drama school we at one point came up with the idea of a comedy duo called Ginger and Jew, which never took off. But had I followed his pathway then and done comedy, I would have been on the circuit at a time when there were far more opportunities. And I think when I hit, I sort of missed it a little bit. But the gigs were there, and I did all right. But I couldn't get an agent because I'd missed that sort of excitement of middle-aged dad.
No, it weren't that at all. You couldn't get an agent because you weren't malleable enough. You couldn't get manipulated by some fat cat parasite.
There was one agent who was.
Did that remind you, fat cat parasite? I've got to guess it, isn't it?
There was one agent who was courting me, and I was courting them as well. So, and then all of a sudden they were like, "But we're going to change the way we work. It's going to be like this." And I was like, "No, I'm sorry, that's not how agents." So, I'm a bit old school, and if that means I've got to go by myself, but I did it myself. I've been booking gigs, and then lockdown hit, and I've still gigged during lockdown. So
okay, so let's go well. So just for anyone joining us or anyone listening to the podcast or listening on the Deluxe Radio Network, I am joined tonight by Philip Simon, who is a comedian, writer, was Peppa Pig's dad. I don't think he's real dad, but does a brilliant podcast that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Philip, so how did you cope during lockdown then? Was it difficult?
Well, I was homeschooling my two kids. So, yes, it was difficult.
How old are your kids?
At the start of lockdown, they were 3 and 5.
It's just colouring in then, isn't it, really?
Well, for the 3-year-old, yes, just colouring in.
Are you one of them high-pressure parents, like, we're doing Latin today? You're the ones, come on, en français!
No, my problem is I'm not one of those high pressure parents, but I'm convinced everyone else in the class was. So I was like, we've got to do it. I've got to submit this in Google Classroom. I've never been so stressed in my life. It was awful. The school started off with quite high expectations, and I think by the end of it, they were like, just don't kill them, and we'll pick up the slack when they get back to school. So I was doing that plus working. My wife is a psychologist, so she was working throughout as a key worker. So I was doing all the homeschooling for the second lockdown, trying to write some comedy, do some online gigs. I did a kids comedy show that was online. So every day I was abandoning my own children to go and entertain other people's children.
Love it.
Which is bizarre.
Love it. When I was doing my shows during lockdown, occasionally I'd do one just about parenting and homeschooling that, and try to say to people, as I did to my friends, you're not teachers. Don't try and be a teacher. Just don't screw the kids up, right? Because you do not want, in a few 13 years from now, your young one coming in with the GCSE results and you go, you've got U's and everything. And them saying, yeah, because during the critical part of my education, you was in charge, Dad. It's just that thing of, it's really hard. My kids are grown up now, but I just remember I loved every minute when they were little. I would get up. My youngest boy would get up like 5 a.m. I'd get up with him. We'd watch the sun come up, and then I would work like night shifts and come home from nights. You couldn't wait to be with them. I just loved it. And when people say, I've got little kids who are a pain, I'm like, no, they're the best times, mate. Once they start reading books you haven't read, that's when they're gone. So I remember Harry Potter did it for us. My eldest boy was 9, started reading Harry Potter. It was the only time I've never read a book that he'd read. And that's when the independence started. So I figured after that, I might as well potty train him.
It's a good idea. Just to stay connected. I don't have the same experience of parenting as you do.
Mate. Send them round to me.
I love my children very much. I do everything for them. I wouldn't do it for any other children, but I caught their vomit, their poo, I love them, but I do not enjoy being a dad. I enjoy being a comedian. I enjoy writing. I enjoy driving to gigs and staying in hotels for gigs and being in green rooms with other comics. And so I found it very difficult being at home the whole time. And the expectation then of having to teach them and not just get them sucked into a world of Netflix and Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's funny because my eldest boy now, he's 27, and so when I work nights so that I could be at home during the day, so mother and toddler groups, I was the only man there, and I would get so patronised you wouldn't believe it. But it didn't bother me at all. And I can remember my then father-in-law, who's now no longer with us, saying, "Look, they need their mum." I'm like, "Yeah, all right then. We're going to go to the park now. Build a tent fort in the trees. Do you want to come with us?" And he'd come with us. He's like, "I wish I'd done this when my kids were little." It's just great. And even now, I've got at least 100 photos that I can embarrass my kids with.
Well, we've got the photos. We've got the photos. That's good. And I'm very involved. I don't shirk my responsibility. I was with them all day today. First day of school holidays, with them all day tomorrow, all day Wednesday. So I enjoy being with them. I don't really enjoy not being with them.
No, you know what? I think your experience is much more common, especially amongst.
I think it is much more common. I don't think as many people say it out loud.
No.
And I think
I appreciate that.
Because I did an Edinburgh show a couple of years ago using Daddy Pig as my starting point for parenting, and where I investigated how I felt about parenting and connecting to my kids. Because I always wanted to be a dad. I was always desperate to be a dad. And I think when it happened, it just kind of knocked me for 6.
Yeah, I think you got to really embrace it.
Well,
really.
I did. I mean, and this is the thing. When I was the time I knew I had to leave my day job, I think I'd been in the office till 3 in the afternoon. I'd driven to Plymouth to do a gig.
Wow.
Driven back from Plymouth, got home at 3 in the morning, a couple of hours sleep, get up to be with my son, to change a nappy, to do whatever. Because I was always very involved, all the nighttime stuff. I did the nappies. My wife did the feed, but I did the nappies. I did bath times, and that was when I realized something had to change, because it was I couldn't function with all of those things happening at the same time. So gave up the day job, because I said wasn't going to give up family or comedy. But as they've grown older, and they're now 4 and 6.
Was that hard to add 1 to 3 and 5, mate? Because
that's the effect it's having. I've done more maths in the past year, and I still can't add 1.
What was that word you said? You've done more?
Maths.
Maths.
Oh,
there's an S on the end. Okay.
Yeah.
I was nearly going to boot you off the show then. Go, math.
Oh, no.
Mate, that's a...
No. We do maths and we watch series of television programs, not seasons, series.
So my kind of inspiration was Finland. I've always had this thing about Finland, and my aunt is she's the only Finnish woman in the family. Married, everyone else is Irish. It's one Scotsman and a Finnish woman. Everybody else is Irish. But so I just thought this was really cool. But in Finland, they don't teach like we do. So you do history, and then you do geography, and then you do maths. Well, in Finland, they would go out and they would talk about how there was a battle, and this was where they fought it. So you'd learn the geography. This is how many people are involved, and so it's very much more immersive. And I always thought that with the way we teach in this country, it's so hard for parents because you've got to know about maths, you've got to know about science, you've got to know about English. Like I've got a master's degree and I still struggle with punctuation. I never learned how to. I don't know what a passive subjective verb is.
See, I don't understand all that. I'm good at grammar, apostrophes and things like that. I don't understand the passive aggressive nature of it all.
It was something about that.
But they've changed maths. They've changed how they do things. Yeah. They've changed the words they use to describe what a sum is, and you should try and get yourself to understand that before you're teaching it to your child was a nightmare.
Yeah, I can't imagine, mate. It's just got to be. So how did you cope then? So you're on the road, and you have a tough gig, and you've got to drive home and be confronted by a hyper-energetic 3-year-old and 5-year-old, and you just realise that you can't do comedy anymore. You can't provide for them. Yeah. What goes through your head?
Panic. A lot of panic is because overnight gigs disappeared. The week that lockdown hit, I lost about $5,000 worth of work. That first week, I was meant to be filming a commercial. This is not a normal week. This was a very unexpected week. But I was meant to be filming a commercial. I had a couple of corporate gigs. And overnight, my diary cleared for 3 months. And then I was kind of like, they won't close the schools, and if they do, it'll just be a couple of weeks. Don't worry. And then the reality hit. And then you start panicking. You mean, well, how can I make money? How can I stay relevant to the industry? Not just, doing like when we come out of it, who's going to be remembered as, I saw that guy for the past year and a half, as opposed to not being on anyone's radar. So I just panicked. My wife, fortunately, is very level-headed and very supportive, and we had a lot of conversations about how we could make it work. And the government did a little bit eventually. It took a while, but the self-employed grants were a lifesaver. But you jump through enough hoops. But it was horrible. And I was in a better position than loads of people, and I was in a worse position than loads of people. I know loads of comedians I was seeing all over it who were down to their last pennies. They were, I at least had a wife who was still working. She wasn't furloughed. She wasn't, so she didn't lose money from that. We had to tighten our belts. We obviously didn't fill up petrol for 6 months, so that was good. So you save money where you can.
Yeah, but you see, this is an example of you. This is the you that I know. Like, you're resilient. You're naturally resilient. You've even said, well, parenting you struggle with, but you do it. And, lockdown, it's not going to beat you. A lot of comics, especially ones who get in touch with me, were at their wits' end because they're defined by their comedy. They don't have that grounding that maybe you and I have, in that there's a world outside of.
I think being able to diversify helped. So the fact I used to do the admin meant that I could put myself out there to still do some online admin. So I've been doing a tiny bit of remote admin here and there for people. The comedy stuff, doing some online gigs, which have been mixed. I think if you're able to diversify, that's great. The problem I had was doing the homeschooling at the same time, because as any freelancer knows, you need to kind of be on it all the time. You don't have a 9 to 5 ability to just switch off and say, right, I'm not at work now, so I'm going to be with my family.
That's interesting. I tell you, I don't answer emails at weekends or in the evenings, and I will very often have people say, "Look, we're trying to contact you Saturday, Sunday." I'm like, it's the weekend. I don't do weekends.
Whereas I'm far needier.
No, I just don't do it. And
an email I might not respond to, but if I see on Facebook someone's booking a gig,
yeah.
and I don't, especially now, you don't do it in the first 5 minutes, it's gone. I saw somebody go up on the Facebook group for a gig a few weeks ago. It was out there for a minute. I applied for it, and it had already gone. So I don't.
I do see that. I do honestly. I do see that.
But if somebody emails me and says, "Hi mate, are you free next Friday to do a gig or whatever?" then that I might delay responding to if I'm with my family, and if I'm, I won't neglect them completely. But there is a time factor with getting.
No, I agree, and that's probably why I don't gig as much as maybe I should do or could do, or whatever. I do see this whole thing of it's like a race. It's a race off the blocks. When I advertise for gigs, I will wait a day or two for everyone to apply, and then I'll choose, who to go to. So, like, even now, I really appreciate you stepping in last minute, but I didn't put it out there for 50 people. I messaged probably 3 people, and it wasn't you the first one to get back. No, you weren't the first one to come back at all. But you're the only one who's got Neil Diamond's platinum disc. So, no, but it's that thing of it's about perspective, and it's about. So when I did have a manager, I used to drive him up the wall. He'd say, "Look, I've got you an audition for 8 out of 10 of Cats," and I'd say, "Why would you do that?" Well, because it'll really help your profile. And then what? And then I'll be away from home more, and it's not what I want to do. It's not. What is it that we, as comics, as performers, there is almost an emptiness, a void in our hearts, I guess. But mine's always filled, and so I don't have that. So if I die on my arse on a gig, I'm like, ain't no big deal. If I storm it, ain't no big deal.
Yeah, I think I always find a way of bringing myself back to the performing side of things. So that's what I want to do. I want to be on stage. I want to write as well, but I want to be on stage performing. So as soon as lockdown hit and I was hit with nothing, just no gigs, I was like, well, how do I get out there and still have some outlet to perform? The kids' comedy was good because it meant I could perform. Yeah. Kids send in jokes, I tell the jokes, make videos, put them out. It's all over YouTube. But it wasn't until I started doing that I felt I had my purpose back, because I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be a stay-at-home dad. I'm very happy to be a parent and spend.
I could see you as a deputy head, not the head. I couldn't see you as the head because I think you've got too much mischief. But I could see you as the sort of like.
One of the between jobs that I do teach in Jewish schools. I teach the sex and relationship education. And
mate, if you had told me this 45 minutes ago, we could have done a whole show on this.
You've seen my set, actually. I've talked about it on stage, so
it's real.
No, maybe you thought I was improvising. I don't know.
Yeah,
but, I've been doing it for about 15 years. It's years 5 to 13. It's basically we teach them everything that's age appropriate, so puberty up to relationships and boundaries and STIs.
No means no. To teach them no means no.
There's a lot of consent that we teach them at the moment. Yes, cyber safety, sexting. Obviously, the downside of sexting, not how to sext.
Look at these photos I sent my missus. Yeah, look where they've ended up.
Yeah, there's rarely a practical side of the class. So I'm doing all of that stuff. I can do that as a teacher because I can dip in and out of it. I could not be a full-time teacher. As I said, dip in and out of it. I know. I heard it.
I remember when I was reading. So tell us about your kids' joke book that you're working on, that you've got.
The kids' comedy show I created was called Schools Out Comedy Club. Basically, kids send in jokes, and I started off. I made videos, sort of 7 or 8 minute videos, and just put them on YouTube. And then I started doing some live shows on Zoom where kids can actually be part of the show, and I effectively compare it, and they tell their jokes. And last year I took all of the jokes that the kids had sent and I published a joke book that we are selling to raise money for Fair Share, which is the charity that Marcus Rashford made famous as the charity that were feeding families and children when the government decided not to. So all the profits go to them, and I think for every book sold, they can provide 4 meals for families. So we've put, so far the book's generated over 1,000 meals for
Brilliant.
for families.
Brilliant, it's fantastic. And that can be bought on your website.
You can. I'll hold one up for effect. There we are. That's the book.
Schools Out
Joe
Comedy
Bohr,
Club.
the comedian Joe Bohr, did the illustrations.
He's very good. He's very good, Joe Bohr.
That's all the jokes. Yeah, it's on my website, philipsimon.co.uk/shop. And they are $6.99 with free UK postage, and all the profits.
Brilliant.
I kind of felt I didn't write this. I wrote 5 of the jokes in there. The rest are all from the kids, and I didn't really want to monetize. As desperate as things were, I didn't want to monetize other people's work. So I cover the costs, and then Fair Share gets the rest.
Fantastic. So anyone now listening to us on SoundCloud or on the podcast or on or YouTube, wherever, this is Philip Simon, who is a brilliant comedian. He's got Neil Diamond platinum disc, which is the most impressive thing any guest has ever had so far. The bar is now high. His comedy club children's charity joke book is out there. It's very, very funny. So do check that out. I'll put the details on the page afterwards as well. Tell us about your podcast you do as well, because that's quite interesting.
So this also started during lockdown. Rachel Krieger is a very good friend and very good comedian, and she and we've always been talking about doing various things together. And with lockdown, we finally had the chance to come up with something. She and I sat down with a guy called Russell Bulkind, who is a producer, and he's worked on MASH Report, 8 out of 10 Cats, stuff like that.
Brilliant.
And we created a podcast called Jew Talking to Me, and it's us interviewing funny, entertaining Jews. There's 2 guests. We've done 31 episodes so far.
So that's 62 guests.
62 guests.
Yeah, quicker was there.
Yeah,
see that? So I did that.
Very good. I should have asked you how old my kids are.
Would I've got a Jamie Dodger as my treat for if you was teaching me with your kids? Would I? Anyway, so is there because we always think about this as a unique Jewish style of comedy, don't we? Right.
Yeah.
But personally, my friends who are Jewish, they're not like that. They're not dry. They don't have that dry humor, and it's funny. Especially one I can think of, it's just full of mischief. And I, again, having been, because I don't know if I mentioned before, I was best man at a Jewish wedding, and the girl he was marrying was an Anglican, and to kind of appease the parents, I had to pretend to be Jewish for the day. It's hilarious, honestly.
Yeah.
I did. I had to learn all these little ceremonies, all these little sayings to do, and then when his dad made his speech, he goes, "A big round of applause to our best man here, who all day long has desperately tried. He's learned it textbook, which is why we saw through you. But we let you have a taste of Jewish life. I liked it. It was good. But so the podcast though, is that monthly, weekly, fortnightly?
It's weekly. We've done them in series of 10s. So we're on a break at the moment, but they're all available. They're all available on wherever you get podcasts, I guess. We started off doing them as a video podcast as well on here.
Yeah.
And then we decided it was such hard work to put them all together like that. And the audio podcast, it's now just audio. They're all available wherever you get podcasts, and it's a variety of guests. They're all Jewish, or I think we've had a couple who only slightly identify as Jewish, but it basically it's talking about them, what their favorite.
Slightly. How do you slightly identify as being Jewish?
Well, it might be like we had Izzy Sutty on.
Okay, yeah.
Who never talks about being Jewish. She's not obviously Jewish. She's not, but her mum is Jewish, so she has some understanding of the background. And she was, really worried about. I don't know, because maybe I don't know enough. I don't know. And she's
kind of Jewish-ish.
Yeah, Jewish.
Ish. Yeah,
So
yeah.
she was brilliant, a really, really lovely guest. We 2 guests each week, so we pair them up quite nicely. We've had people from all over the world. We've had Australian guests, American guests. We had I'm going to forget names. Anthony Horowitz, the writer, was on.
Wow.
Who was
Wow,
really,
yeah.
really excellent guest. And we had him on with Alice Fraser, who was in Australia. So you got the time zones to deal with. Really, it's just a lot of fun. It's just us talking, asking them what their memories are growing up,
Brilliant.
being Jewish home, Jewish foods. Have they ever fallen out? Because there's a thing about being Jewish. You have a broigus, you have a feud with somebody that often started off as something really tiny, but has become this huge overblown argument. So it's been really, really good fun and nice to be able to kind of have a project to work on.
No, it's good. Well, it seems to me that's a consistent theme running through this whole conversation, is that you're a busy little bloke, aren't you?
I know. I'm just going to correct the spelling of Philip.
Okay,
there's just the one L.
Why is there only one L?
It's just all my parents could afford.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I don't think you're a real Philip.
I mean,
mate, I'm going to have to scrap the show, start again. So tell us. Well, so it seems to me that your resilience comes from keeping busy. You got a sense of identity.
I think also I grew up in a family that was. I think there were high expectations of lawyers and doctors or accountants or whatever, and I was the one going, no, I want to be an actor, actually. So I think I've always had that sense of I need to be able to support myself, provide for myself. I've worked since I was 14 in shops, and I've always wanted to be able to look after myself in that respect. And yeah, but just diversifying, resilience probably is a big part of it, but stubbornness, I think one of the reasons it is though. I think one of the reasons I was an actor for so long is because having told people I wanted to be an actor, I wasn't prepared to then have to say, yeah, I've gone into admin instead, so I think I was just kind of stubbornly sticking with it, because I should have started stand up a long time before, and I just didn't, because I wanted to be an actor.
So, okay, so you want to do something, will you always see it through? If your wife comes through that door now and goes, the shelves are not put up, the hallway's half painted.
If I'm being pushed by the right people, I will always see something through. The joke book only happened because enough people knew I was thinking about it, so kept asking, how's the joke book coming along? Where are you up to with the design? That's the only reason I haven't. Ultimately, I'm quite lazy. So, yeah, I think I find ways of getting out of doing things. So if I've got the right people pushing me, then yeah, and I'm very lucky. My wife is incredibly supportive and gets what I do. She kind of gets the difference between me being at home homeschooling and driving to the middle of nowhere to do a gig for hardly any money, but the difference in how I am when I come home from that gig is important.
Mate, that's a fantastic tip. So look, we'll plug the book. We'll mention the podcast. Like I say, it is even for. I mean, I'm from a cult of Judaism, right? As a Catholic, right? So I sort of get the kind of references. But no, I thought it was really, really interesting to listen to. But I just like listening to people, to be honest. So yeah, good luck with the book, mate, and good luck with the comedy. Thank you so much for coming on. Take care, stay safe, mate. Speak soon.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, buddy. That was Philip Simon. How good was he? I could have spoken to him for hours. I just think that it's interesting when we start talking to people, you find out things that you don't really know about people you think you know. If you get a chance to see Philip's comedy, he's very funny, but he's also nice. And there aren't a lot of nice people about, certainly not on the comedy circuit. And when someone is nice, as he is, and is proudly nice, it does make a difference. Because I think a lot of the tips for well-being that we can use can come about because we follow other people's leads and examples. So if you're continually surrounded by people who bring you down, They will bring you down. You need to be surrounding yourself with good, positive people. We're building up quite a good selection of tips. So if you remember Steve Troop last week, brilliant. It's all about choices, making good choices. I really like that. Steve Troop, great guest last week, actually. Marcus Birdman, if we remember, talked about yoga and eating well. So Danny Postil was talking about making other people happy, which again, I guess for comedians, that's part of it. But is it about making them happy or just making them laugh? I don't know. Rialina, if we remember, talked about managing your energy. Have a nothing day sometime and just switch off. And of course, my mate Kane's my favourite, this one. Be selfish, look after yourself. There's nothing wrong with loving yourself, because if you don't love yourself, nobody else will. It's going to be an interesting week this week, because as we've come further out of lockdown and we've come further away from the football, so now the COVID cases, will they rise? Won't they rise? People are still struggling. And as we emerge from the darkness of the last 18, 19 months, I think that it will have an effect on all of us. But how's it affecting you? Think about what you're doing and why you do what you do. Humans, we're great creatures of habits. Great creatures of habits. Dave Sleep, good point there, mate. Laughter is a medicine and self-care is not selfish. But we're told, don't we? Oh, don't be selfish. Don't be yourself first. Obviously, it doesn't mean if you're on the lifeboat, you push other people out of the way. But don't be scared to get onto the lifeboat. Don't be scared to ask for help. There'll be times when we all need a hand. And sometimes it will come from the most unexpected quarters. So like I say, tonight I should have had Andrew O'Neill on, but he wasn't able to make it. But I was fortunate enough to be able to reach out to Philip Simon, who came on as an exceptional guest. If you do want to find out more about Philip and what he gets up to, then just hang around street corners. He's got a great website, philipsimon.co.uk, and also Twitter is @PhilipsComedy. So do go and check him out. Check out the book, buy the book, because the money will go towards this great fund to buy meals for kids. We can't expect Marcus Rashford to pay for it all himself, and it's all about doing our own little bits. Have a little think about what you're doing this week, and then, like Philip said, he started putting this book together. It gave him something to do, and then from having something to do, it gave him a purpose, it gave him a sense of direction, and it was something that helped him relax and enjoy what he was doing, to unwind, and to have something out of the norm of what he was doing. And what I'd like everyone that's listening here, either on SoundCloud or through the men's radio station or Deluxe Network Radio or women's radio station, wherever you're listening, think about something you'd like to do for you, just for you, not for anybody else at all. Think about what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. Because like I say very often, we just forget that we were kids once and we had dreams and aspirations, and they seem to have gone along the way. I want to thank you for joining us. If you have enjoyed the show, do check out the rest of the shows on the men's radio station and also the women's radio station. But you can listen on YouTube, on Twitter, on the Deluxe Radio Network. We are here every Monday at 7 o'clock. Every week we have different guests. To be honest, they can change by the hour, as we found out tonight. If you are on your own and you need some help, you just want to reach out, don't be scared to ask for help. And if that's daunting for you, if you know someone who you think maybe needs a little bit of help, then do please reach out to them. We've got some fantastic organisations. Time to Change and mind.org.uk are great sources of support, information and advice. So don't be scared to use them. Also, do have a look at the mensradiostation.com website and my own website, happytohealthyou.com. We're all about trying to raise awareness. We're not trying to prescribe, not trying to give clinical diagnosis. We're just people who want to come together and be the difference. Have a great week. Take care and stay safe, everyone.
Well, that's the end of another episode of Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan. We're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. talking with comedians about mental wellness, mental well-being, and just trying to get the conversation going. What we're trying to do is show that it's good to talk, and we're also trying to show that everybody can go through the same experiences. A massive thank you to the WJ Group who sponsored the show, showing their commitment not just to mental well-being, but also to reaching as broad an audience as possible. It's great to be part of the mensradiostation.com family, so do check us out on the website, on social media. We'll be back next Monday. You take care. Stay safe, everybody.